Good afternoon one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Information Warfare Pavilion and our speakers series. Been a busy day for us here, both in the pavilion and in the series. Outstanding speakers, which will continue here in just a second. But you had Admiral Studeman talk about the Pacific and what's going on with China. Admiral Vernaza is here to speak to us about how the information warfare community under Admiral Paparo's leadership is organizing to face the challenges. I'm not going to read a lot of Admiral Vernaza's bio. You can find it online and in the app. But he did start out as a surface warfare officer, as many in the community do. And then he converted to Intel and had an outstanding career on both many operational commands on both East and West Coast. So he's got the well-versed background that makes him the perfect senior leader to lead the effort there for Admiral Paparo. So with that, Admiral, over to you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Joe. Hey, it's really great to be here today. I know I'm your last speaker, but thank you for coming to this presentation on what we're doing in the Pacific with Fleet Information Warfare Command. So I'm Rear Admiral Mike Vernaza. I am the commander of FIWC PAC. I'm also dual-hatted as the Director for Maritime Information Warfare on the PAC Fleet staff. It puts me in a unique position where I'm both kind of a operational maneuver element as Task Force 501, but I'm also at the S2 level looking across the depth and breadth of information warfare capabilities across the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Today, as I said, I'm going to talk to you about FIWC PAC in this unclassed presentation. I see a lot of old bosses, former bosses in this room, along with a lot of shipmates, classmates as well. And I see a great bond here of military, civilian, and industry. And I do want to foot stomp that your presence here is a tremendous strength. And I think forums like this just provide us a great competitive advantage as we go forward to address the great power competition needs and requirements that our Navy and our nation have. It's great to be able to follow Mike Studeman, who talked to you earlier if you were here for his presentation on China. I think it provides great context for what I'm going to talk to you about today. And so I've got a few prepared remarks, a couple slides, and then after that I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So I often get asked, why did the U.S. Pacific Fleet stand up a flag-level command focused on information warfare? And the answer is that Admiral Paparo directed the stand-up of this command based on his experience of effectively executing information operations in the U.S. Central Command when he was the J3, a recognition of how the world has changed and made information much more accessible, and a realization of how aggressively our primary competitor, China, was operating in the information domain. The primary quote on this slide, "Information operations will be baked into everything we do," is the guiding principle for the U.S. Pacific Fleet in the development of operations, activities, and investments. We start with what is the right message, the desired information and perception end state, and then we design operations, activities, and investments with that in mind. So just like we have maneuver fleets and task forces, and a few years ago we added Fleet Cyber Command and 10th Fleet to maneuver in space and cyber, the U.S. Pacific Fleet saw a need for a command and a task force to operate and maneuver in the information domain, and to work with and support the other Echelon 3 fleet units to achieve the desired information end states. And that's represented in the C2 slide that you'll see here on this chart. On the top right, you'll see a visualization of the process of how we bake information operations into everything we do. And this is loosely based on the highly successful JSOC F3EA, the Find, Fix, Finish, Exploit, and Analyze model. We call it the Information Effects Cycle. It's how FIWC PAC integrates into the Pacific Fleet to rapidly identify, plan, execute, and assess information operations in order to operate at the speed of relevance. The box labeled 21st Century Information Realities simply points out the complicated times in which we live. and how we access, process, and interact with the massive explosion of available information. And while the information age has been net positive, it has also provided malign actors numerous new outlets and mediums to spread disinformation, propaganda, and lies. Our ability to influence is critical across the spectrum of conflict, competition, and crisis. And why is that? Because malign actor nations in the information space rely on deniability, and they seek to remain below the response threshold and achieve cumulative effects through seemingly minor actions. So this raises the importance of combating a competitor's narrative, not just its tactical actions. So on my first slide, I mentioned end states. And in competition, the desired end state is integrated deterrence. The Secretary has spoken about integrated deterrence and maximizing effects across all warfare domains and all theaters using all instruments of power. And our network of alliances and partnerships, which is absolutely critical and our asymmetric advantage that our nation enjoys. Marrying deterrence and now information helps us to alter our competitors' perceptions of risk, costs, benefits, and demonstrates our ability to control escalation. And in deterrence, information operations is the first, the middle, and last. It's baked into everything we do. Information warfare, and specifically information operations, is designed to influence and affect cognitive states and reinforce the perception and belief that the cost of imposition of aggressive expansionism, coercion, and military actions will exceed any benefits that can be gained through aggression. So how is FIWC PAC doing this? We do this through strategic communications. The U.S. military, especially our Navy, spends a lot of time forward engaging with partners and allies and signaling adversaries. Activities include theater security cooperation, exercises, freedom of navigation activities, and key leader engagements. And under military information support operations, or MISO, we are well positioned to collect evidence of adversary actions and can share it with partner nations and news agencies. A picture or video is worth 1,000 words and can be a perfect complement to press releases alone. Related to our MISO efforts, we have begun proactively sharing with allies and partners across the region a series of information products to explain the what and the why of Pacific Fleet operations. These products highlight our readiness, our resiliency, our responsiveness, our military overmatching capabilities, and overall, our commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. We do this to ensure we are not leaving an information vacuum that would otherwise be filled by less than truthful actors. We also do so through our deception operations, our technical operations that support the assurance of our networks, providing battle space awareness and integrated fires. And then, of course, finally, is the operational security, or OPSEC, that each nation brings to bear in its own defense. The numerous boxes on the right highlight what many specific actions along these lines of effort are, and they're also a metric for how we measure our own performance. Oh, there we go. All right. Competing in the information environment is about ensuring that we, as free and sovereign nations, ensure our competitors' behaviors are held to account and that we illuminate the true nature of their activities and illustrate the cumulative effects of their actions. More importantly, that our competitors' actions do not disrupt the peace and stability of the Indo-Pacific region or the international's rules-based order, an international system that has resulted in decades of shared prosperity. So let me say thank you for your attentiveness, and I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Nick Russell, FIWC PAC. What is the best way for academia, industry, or the warfare centers to reach in and help your center be able to reach your requirements and basically help do what you do better?
Did you say you're with FIWC PAC?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you said, I just couldn't hear you well.
No, what I said was how can industry, academia, and the warfare centers reach into your organization to help you meet your requirements?
I'm happy to talk with you right after this.
Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sir, Colonel Frank Estes, I'm the commander of the 151 Theater Information Operations Group. To what degree have you seen information operations in the Navy, especially Pacific, move more from supporting other operations to being the supported operation? And yeah, how has that worked out, I guess, under your tenure?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. I will tell you, until we stood up this command, and with the Admiral Paparo's focus on that, it largely was behind the scenes. And now information operations is getting higher visibility and much more focus in the theater, working with the other components to synchronize, align, and integrate a message in the theater. So we have a lot of work to do in this domain. I would say I think the Army is doing a tremendous job in theater, and we are partnering with them as well. So this is a good coalition of like-minded groups across all the components in the Indo-PACOM theater. So yeah, thank you for that.
Mark Kenny, Ultra.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming out again. Yesterday, during the Tight Commander briefs, a fleet operator asked a question about integration of IW and fleet assets. Admiral Javelin jumped on and talked about the addition of an IW sailor on each submarine as part of the integration.
Yeah.
Are there other ongoing efforts that you can talk about to help integrate at the deck plate your organization in support of the fleet? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Admiral Ashback talked about that this morning too, which was great. The Admiral Houston and the subforces teamed with NAV-I-4 to really get after IW integration in the subforce. We are looking at other opportunities, leveraging our WDCs. I see our WDC command over there, to work with the NIWITIC, the other warfare development centers, to grow the IO narrative across all of the other communities, to ensure that it's married properly, synchronized, and that we're getting the effects and the outcomes that the commanders are looking for. So it's a work in progress. The command's was established last year in April 1st, so we're not yet a year old, but we're making great progress.
Hi, Mark Pomerleau with Defense Scoop.
Hi, Mark.
To what degree are you working with some of the other services in your theater? Because obviously all this has to come together kind of in a joint task force level for that, 4-star theater commander. So, how are you working with some of the other services and their IRCs to kind of develop and deliver an integrated information warfare package, if you will?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So we are working with Indo-PACOM and all the components in theater. So there's a director of information at the Indo-PACOM level. We work with him. We bring in the Marine Corps and MAR4 PAC, what they're doing in the MiGs, the Army TIADs, the theater information detachments, our piece, FIWC PAC, the Air Force. And if you had a chance to listen to Admiral Paparo yesterday, he is the JTF commander. So all of these activities, when as they get synchronized, work through him and into Indo-PACOM. So there is good synchronization and integration between all the components in this domain.
Hi, I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
I'm Patty with Bloomberg Government. I'm a reporter. I'm curious, you mentioned before that adversaries are kind of working below the response threshold. I was wondering if you could talk about the importance of that and what that kind of means for where you sit.
Of what it means? Well, it allows adversaries to operate where they might not necessarily be seen, and it's a cumulative effect piece. Each individual action in and of itself might not break threshold for certain things, but when you add them all up, they can have a strategic effect in theater. So one of the things we're looking to do is to highlight those, even if they're small effects, and so that they are brought to the attention of the right folks, and they are not able to operate below that threshold where they feel they can and that nobody's watching. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the second question, a lot of what we're talking about is more outward, but can you talk a little bit about what the inward kind of, for the service members, kind of what information warfare training or maybe training to not be susceptible to it looks like?
For training for what we're doing here? Yeah, so each one of the folks that we have on our team, and again, it's a small team, they come from their individual IW communities. And so they're bringing the skill sets that they have, whether they're intel professionals, cryptologists, meteorology, oceanography types, or information professionals. And we also have maritime space officers who were talked about earlier as well. And so we are looking to leverage what we consider some of the best in breed training. Some of it's through the Army, some of it's through our warfighting development centers, to get folks the proper training and skill sets that they need to serve as a baseline, and then we'll go from there and provide some more unique training that they may need depending on what the topics are. Sure.
Sir, Mike Massa from Carnegie Mellon's SCI. In the early days of cyber, DCO and OCO were kept sort of segregated. They didn't even talk to each other that much, the different teams and the thought leaders. And over time, they've become more tightly bound together, even integrated. In this IW space as a new command, are you starting out with an integrated focus or keeping a demarcation line down the middle?
So we're doing a little of both, to be honest with you. So we realize that what we're doing necessarily in the maritime domain, while interesting, may not necessarily be applicable to some of what the other folks are. But where we can align, synchronize, and integrate across the other components, we are doing that as well. Because of our size, we have to kind of pick and choose exactly what we're going to focus on. Some of the other components are larger than us right now. But it's kind of a balancing act right now in terms of how we use our time and talent, and whether it's a Navy focus or a more broader integrated focus. Hopefully that answers your question. Sure, go ahead. We have, and we've done that in coordination with both the PAC fleet commanders' desires as well as what Indo-PACOM is looking to get after as well.
Anybody else? Sir, Lieutenant Kant.
Hey, how are you?
Living the dream,
Good.
sir. You had a really nice box on the slide before that talked about sharing intelligence to build credibility with that, particularly in the Indo-PACOM AOR, where our partners are such a large part of that fight against something like the PRC. Have you seen any conflicts with sharing of actionable intelligence with some of those partners, given the classification level and types of techniques that we've been using to gather that intelligence?
Great question. There's always a challenge in getting information and intelligence released at the proper level, depending on where it came from and the sources and methods that it came. I will say that I think we have been pretty successful in our ability to share with allies and partners when and where able in terms of releasability. We have a good focus on that, and we think it's very important to be able to share the narrative with allies and partners about what is not only what PAC Fleet is doing, but what's happening in the theater.
Sir, with regard to social media and the countries within the AOR, do you see social media continuing to be a greater influencer and kind of trending upward, or do you see it plateauing or even petering out because people have become kind of inoculated to it?
I think social media will continue to be an influencer, especially if it's their decided upon primary source of news or information. It's certainly a challenge to be able to make sure that we're able to reach folks that use social media as a primary source. So I think it's going to continue to continue. I don't see it plateauing anytime soon. Yeah. All right, Joe. All right, thank you.